Hey, it's CS Joseph with csjoseph.life, and tonight we're going to be continuing our series on the 16 personalities according to Jungian analytical psychology. Tonight's type profile will be the ISFP, also known as the artist, the behind-the-scenes artisan. Informative responding control is their interaction style. So let's dive in. So, this is the ISFP. If you notice, we have Timbre the Cat, a drawing of my son's cat. His name is Timbre, orange tabby, likes to hang out on the roof. And shout out to Rin, who asked me to put a cat on the whiteboard for her for the ISFP video because she is an ISFP. So, there you go. There is Timbre the Cat. So, on to the ISFP. So the ISFP is a freedom-based creator. They're very creative because they are an artisan. They're focused on freedom. They always have to have the choice to do whatever they want for the most part. If they feel that it is inhibited, they can get ragey and get really sourpuss about it because FE hero or FI hero, when it doesn't like something, it can get just really withdrawn and just kind of go away. And then if it really is big of a problem, they'll just get ragey about it and have to react in the moment. A lot of people say that compared to ISTPs, they're slower to react to things, which may be true, but that's because they're kind of silently judging to themselves how they feel about a situation before they actually make a decision. It's because they're not so much movement-oriented, they're very control-oriented. They like to have some semblance of control in the environment that they're in. And that's kind of how they approach their use of their SE parent, which is right here, because they use their SE parent to augment or activate their mechanical genius. Now, a lot of ISFPs actually maintain that they are not mechanical geniuses, but I completely disagree. The reason why is because when I say mechanical genius, they take it literally and think that I mean that they're masters at mechanics at everything, which is not actually true. From an ISTP standpoint, they're kind of like the jack of all trades, masters of none. But when they start focusing their craft, they can become a master. An ISFP is a little bit different. They actually focus on trying to master one thing at a time instead of trying to do everything at once with their mechanical mastery. And it has everything to do with what they're in the mood for and what they want to do with their NI child. And that allows them to focus on specifically things that they like and that they feel good about and things that they want to do. And through that focus, they're able to follow a process with their TE inferior, their rational thinking, and that to do a process of creation. And they become very creative because they're focused on the art of their mechanical mastery. They're not focused on solving a problem like an ISTP would, or fixing something, or making something better, or improving something. That's what ISTPs do. And ISFP is trying to create something from nothing. And they can improve things over time, but it's usually rooted from an initial art that they're trying to do. Like, for example, my former father-in-law, he invented a house, and the house was just this amazing masterpiece of art that he made. He's invented all sorts of knickknacks and inventions and things, but it's all from his art because he views his 40 acres of property as his canvas with which he paints upon. I was talking to an ESFJ woman on an airline ride recently, and she's married to an ISFP, and she has an ISFP daughter, and her ISFP husband spends all his time out on the farm, running the farm and doing the farm because the farm is his art. And in fact, like, he'll do cool crop circle designs, or he'll paint his farming equipment in a certain way, with certain amazing designs, and he's constantly drawing all the time for those designs, etc. But it's always from the point of their art, and that's where their mechanical mastery lies. There is an ISFP on this channel who was starting to comment about introverted feeling and extroverted sensing, and he said, oh, I'm a guitarist, but that doesn't make me a mechanical master. And like, actually it does. If you're just focusing on guitar and becoming like the ultimate guitarist that walks the earth, that's still a form of mechanical mastery. It's just more focused. It's focused on what you feel good doing. Whereas the ISTP, it's not that way. They're just about fixing or solving a problem per se. Whereas instead of actually drawing some form of self-worth. Because ISFPs really want to give people a good experience, and then they want those same people to think very highly of them so they can feel good about themselves, about the art that they've created. Because they're about delivering the ultimate experience and have people appreciate and think highly of that experience so that their name becomes this amazing label that has status with it. TE inferior is all about status. And that label, like, so for example, if an ISFP makes a painting and they sign their name on it, it's to the point where their name has value, has actual intrinsic value based on it just being on the painting, which increases the monetary value of that painting because their name is on it, right? And ISFPs take that very seriously. In fact, and in some cases, they actually organize their life around their label and their personal brand in that regard. And it's something truly amazing to see, especially when they're past their early adoption stage. People are, buying some paintings. Like, for example, like I babysat an ISFP little girl when I was growing up too, nowadays she's like college age, post college age, but she makes these amazing paintings, and like I have no problem offering money for those paintings because I would love to hang them up in my house because they're just absolutely riveting. They are amazing, and I love as an ENTP to receive the art of other people. I like to receive the experiences of other people, especially from ISFP types. It's fantastic. It's also one of the reasons why I like ENTJs so much, because ENTJs have an ISFP subconscious, and as an ENTJ matures, they actually start developing their ISFP subconscious more and creating amazing art on their own. Like, I used to work for an ENTJ who owns a filming company, and he got really involved with making movies and doing music videos for A-list recording artists, and all of his work was fantastic. He had the most high-tech gear for it. Absolutely amazing. And I got a lot of respect for that guy, and he helped me out a lot. He's very altruistic. I should have treated him a little bit better. Had I understood where he was coming from, I would have. But but his ISFP subconscious is an amazing thing. And watching ISFP egos, it's an amazing thing as well, for absolute. So the hero is all about how they feel. That's their moral compass. An ISFP will always know how they feel, and oftentimes they get accused of silently judging other people from a distance because they're not always going to be sharing their feelings with everybody unless they trust them, because they know that if they share their feelings with just anyone, that may cause people's opinions of them to change. And because of that, they don't like that. ISFPs are aware of how opinions of others change on a whim, and it scares them. They really want to be able to create the ultimate experience and deliver it consistently to people, which actually causes loyalty. And remember how ISFPs really are all about their TE inferior brand. They want to have that brand loyalty. They take their reputation very seriously. They take their work very seriously. And I might be inaccurate here, but I think Nicki Minaj is a ISFP ego or ISFP subconscious. I'm not sure yet. I haven't really spent time paying attention to what type she is. But I remember a story about her working with David Guetta on their song that they collaborated on called Turn Me On. And David Guetta kept on talking about how she would make him redo the song over and over and over and over and over to get it right, because she absolutely was committed to making sure it was absolutely perfect, because it's her art basically. And David Guetta, being an artist himself, he completely he understood that dedication, and that dedication comes from their SI critic, because they know the experience that they want to give to other people and they do it responsively. And it's important that because they're being super responsible with the experience that they're giving to others, that when they receive other people's experiences, they really critique it. And ISFPs are really good at critiquing other people's art, other physical environments, whether or not, and they always know how they feel about it and that experience that they're giving. Granted, because they have low introverted sensing, not that ISFPs would ever admit to it because they won't, they're actually pretty forgetful. Now, they'll remember things that are important to them and important to how they feel about, and if they feel good about something or they feel bad about something, they're going to remember that, but all of the other information is just going to get thrown out. And ISFPs, well, I can still remember stuff from 20 years ago. Well, yeah, that's because your mind has deemed it important, but usually, moment by moment, you're gathering so much new information about the physical environment that it's just kind of leaving your head as you go. Well, you can't prove that. Well, I mean, no one's going to really want to prove it to you anyway, because you're just going to feel bad when you find out that they're right, and no one wants to make you feel bad. So then you're left thinking that you actually have an amazing memory when you don't. Sorry. Anyway, so SE Parent is all about manipulating the physical environment, giving that ultimate experience. That's what gives them their mechanical mastery. And Child is all about them doing what they want, and it comes off like it's liquid luck, but it's not. They just can see the best path forward that they can move through, and they're very efficient about it, finding the ideal path for them to go forward and make a decision on, or what they want, what they desire. It's the source of their willpower, and they want to give that good ultimate master, that magnum opus experience to others, and that's how they do that. And they use their NI Child to kind of guide them as to what they actually want to produce or create. TE Inferior, we talked about status, talked about the labels and the brand of the ISFP. The problem with TE Inferior is that they're very insecure about how other people think of them, and that can be a problem. That insecurity causes them to worry, to be concerned, it's not concern or worry, it's just afraid that others will think less of them or think less of their work. So they go out of their way to overcompensate in certain areas to make sure that people think highly of them, and they'll even completely scrap a project or work that they're doing, redo it from the beginning, just so that they know that other people are going to think highly of the work that they're going to do. Because their masterpiece is everything to them. Their magnum opus or series of magnum opus are important to them. So FE Nemesis is very interesting. The ISFP worries about how other people value them and value their work, worries about how people, feel about them. And it's part of their moral compass. They're very heroic with how they feel, and because they know they spend such a lot of time being the most moral person in the world, they realize that other people just are kind of not as moral as they are. And so because of that, they worry that other people, they walk around in the world worried that other people are just bad people or potentially bad people. Then it also causes them to make sure that they absolutely stay the good person as much as possible, because they don't want to trigger negative feelings in other people. And that's why FI Hero is very sympathetic. It wants to be sympathetic to other people and sympathetic to the right cause, because it's all about what they believe. They believe in the good. The ISFP is concerned with the good. They don't care about the truth. They care about what is good. Well, they may say, well, I do care about the truth. No, you care about how you feel about the truth. It's not about what's actually true or false to you. It's about what is a good or bad thing, right? And they're like, well, I feel that this is true, but that doesn't necessarily make that true. It just means you feel good about it. And, the collective may say something is true, and then you can actually start feeling good about that. And ISFPs, because of TE Inferior, can be at risk of succumbing to groupthink. Because from their point of view, if the collective says it's a good thing, then it really must be a good thing, when in reality that may not actually be true. So ISFPs are susceptible to groupthink. That's why they're really good with being with SFJs, because TI Inferior and TI Child of SFJ types can protect the ISFP from succumbing to groupthink and then making bad decisions, because they're so weak to the groupthink. They're so sensitive to groupthink. And that's another reason why ISFPs are behind the scenes and they like to be alone, because that aloneness actually takes them outside of the collective, and then they don't have to worry about the pressures, the problems of the groupthink. The problem is because they're so far out of it, they have less experience with dealing with the groupthink, and that's what actually also, self-fulfilling prophecy, makes them weak to the groupthink. So it's important that they are coupled with SFJs or have relationships with SFJs in whatever possible way, so that those SFJs can watch out and protect the ISFP from those problems, from those risks. We talked a little bit about SI critic. It's where their long-term memory goes. They have a very sharp long-term memory, but it doesn't remember everything, and they are prone to forgetting things, and they do forget things. It's because new data, they have a really huge RAM but very small hard drive, and new data is coming into their head constantly and pushing out old data that their mind just feels is not really that relevant. But they will categorize their memories in buckets, and they can kind of unpackage them with their extroverted thinking if they think out loud, and then they start remembering things because they're thinking out loud, and they think that that's how they have a good memory, but in reality it's not. It's just how a process that they follow with their extroverted thinking to be able to unlock those older memories and bring them back into view when they weren't there before. So just remember that they can be forgetful in that way. If you're struggling with an ISFP who keeps telling you that they remember everything, just start categorizing and keeping track of everything they forget, and then show them the list later. It'll piss off their TE inferior, and they'll probably hate you for it. But if it's really worth it to you to make that happen for whatever goal or reason, then I recommend doing it. But otherwise, be very careful, because you don't want to piss off TE inferior, because you might wake up the TI demon, which is like the last thing you want to do with an ISFP. So, any trickster. This is very interesting with the ISFP compared to the ISTP. The ISTP has any trickster, and this causes both of these types to be completely unaware of the intentions of other people, to be aware of the collective unconscious. They have no metaphysical awareness. But unlike the ISTP, which they don't really care about metaphysics, the ISFP actually kind of does. It wants to seek out the metaphysical. That's why they get involved with psychedelic drugs a lot. They get into the whole free love movement. I know a lot of ISFPs that are hippies alongside the NFJs, or the NFs for that matter. But they actually want to know the unknown of metaphysics, because eventually, as they get later in life, they've mastered physics so well with their extroverted sensing. They're like, well, what else is out there? And they really start looking into the philosophy, or just anything that's metaphysical. And that could be the occult, that could be writings by Eckhart Tolle, or astral projection, or Akashic fields. I mean, whatever hokey stuff you could think of, right? ISFPs end up growing to a point where they're really interested in that stuff, and they really want to explore metaphysics. And they'll even say or claim that they have premonitions sometimes. ISTPs do as well. But it's even more so with ISFPs, because they really, really value that metaphysical talk. The problem is they're just not aware of other people's intentions towards them. So they can be weak against like making poor financial decisions if they're around an ENFP who will try to sell them on something, or even an ENTP who would try to sell them on something, and then the ISFP is literally a lamb to the slaughter. That's why they need to be around SFJs to protect them from those people, those manipulative people. You know, an ISFP, like for example, they'll make some art and they'll front it to people, and then those people will screw them, and they're like, well, that was unfair. And then their SFJs are telling them, well, yeah, I mean, obviously they were going to do that. That guy was shady. But the ISFP doesn't know. They have NE trickster. So SFJs, if you're with an SFP, especially an ISFP, you have to protect them from those manipulative people. You have to. It is very important that you do. If they're going to be around other people, always be ready to protect them, because they're usually in their own world. They don't have the experience in how to deal with that groupthink, thought manipulation, etc., or feelings manipulation, because FE can be used to manipulate feelings in as much as TE can be used to manipulate thoughts. So be aware of that, SFJs, to protect your SFPs. It is very important. And if you are an SFP, and if you're not in a relationship with somebody, an intimate relationship, find yourself an SFJ, or at least an SJ, because they will protect you. But being that you're an SFP, for better compatibility, definitely go with an SFJ, ESFJ or ISFJ. Both of them are excellent for an ISFP. I highly recommend it. Plus, they'd be really willing to receive the experience you're trying to give them, especially in the bedroom. So they have no problem with you being on top, you know what I mean? And that goes for both genders, by the way. So, and those SFJs really want to become the canvas on which you paint upon. So if you're an ISFP, definitely go for an SFJ, for sure. Now, TI Demon is really interesting. It's all about the truth, right, with its sense of logic. So the ISFP is like, well, I go out of my way to make you a good experience, to create this amazing art for you, but you think it's crap, you don't appreciate it, and you're telling me, and you're just criticizing me over and over and over. TE inferior is very sensitive to criticism, and if you over criticize it, the TI demon will be like, okay, you want to talk truth? Let's talk truth then. And then it instantly flips into INTP's superego, where they're literally trying to engineer ways to end your life, or engineer ways to harm you, or to send you down a rabbit hole that will basically cause huge damage to you later. And to the point where, like, you know, because their supporter shadow is trying to be supportive of you, and it's like, I'm so supportive of you, why am I loyal to you? Well, I'm not going to be loyal to you anymore. If I'm going to do the time, I may as well do the crime, right? That's what's fair, right? You want to keep the ISFP from anything that's fair, because if they start talking fairness, that's when you need to run for the hills, because from their point of view, the amount of contributions that they have done for you and all the good feelings that they've put into all of that effort for you gives them a license, basically, to cut your head off with their INTP superego with some kind of crazy invention like, oh, look, I just invented this really new cutting-edge invisible guillotine that teleports behind you and lops your head off when you don't look at it. As weird as that sounds, but that's a very INTP approach. That's what they're going to do in that situation. And the thing is that you won't see it coming. Like, they'll be super behind the scenes, super shady about it, and then all of a sudden out of nowhere, bam, and you don't even know what happened, right? That's because the ISFP, which is usually up front and willing to go to blows and ruling with their SE parent, they get super ragey. They get ragey because they have to react to the problem immediately, because if they wait, that problem loses energy and it doesn't mean as much to them anymore because it's no longer in the moment because of SE parent. But if they're in TI demon mode, they will wait for the opportune moment to strike, and they will strike you where it hurts, and they will destroy your future. You will no longer have a future because of TI demon, so watch out. So how do you avoid all this conflict? Always make the ISFP feel good. You do that by telling them how high you think of them and how highly you think of them consistently. You always let them do what they want. You always compliment them on giving you such a great experience. You tell them how much you appreciate what they do for you and their contributions to you. You make sure that you criticize them properly down here. Don't criticize them based on what you think of them. Just tell them that they need to remember things more. Tell them that they need to be, like, even though they're so concerned about everyone else's experience and concerned about their art, they also need to be focused on themselves too and take care of themselves in this way. Even though they usually do, because of FI Hero and SE Parent, they're very, very capable of taking care of themselves, and they, even how they dress is very flashy and it kind of looks like outgoing, even though it's not really, because they're behind the scenes and introverted, but they still want to give a good visual experience to others. But that doesn't mean, you know, that they're going to go out of their way to take care of, like, their bodies sometimes. I mean, I've noticed a lot of ISFPs that have a hard time taking consistent showers because they're either not in the mood or they're busy focusing on their art, you know what I mean? Then they can neglect themselves. So you have to make sure that you support them by reminding them constantly to not neglect themselves while they're focused so much on their art, as it were. And also protect them from the bad intentions of other people. It is consistent. And never ask an ISFP what they think, like, ever. That's dumb. That'll activate their demon immediately. Ask them how they feel, all right? And they'll be constantly asking you what you think, because they don't want to think. They just want to know what you think so they can use that as a boundary with which to work under or live their life. So anyway, that's it for ISFPs. If you found this video to be helpful, educational, enlightening, please leave a like or subscribe. If you have any questions about ISFPs, please leave it in the comments section, and I'll do my best to answer your questions. If you guys have any opinions about ISFPs or ISFPs you know, go ahead and talk about that as well. I do have a question, though. My question is that, do you know, like, what is your favorite kind of art that you've seen an ISFP do? And go ahead and post in the comments section. I'd like to get some photos and see some really cool art, because I love art. My ISFJ subconscious just loves art. And I love to receive art and see these amazing things that are created. So by all means, add that to the channel. That would be, add that to the comments section for this video. That would be fantastic. So anyway, tomorrow's video is the INTP, so we'll be doing that. And I'll see you all then. Have a good night.